Good Saturday morning. I don't know. I had this book out this morning, this Ask Babalan book. Uh, it's got a bunch of my cartoons in it. I always mention Saturday morning cartoons. Well, here's one of mine from a Christmas card I made for Constance way back in 2005. But I digress. And as a matter of fact, our little meeting this morning is going to probably just be just one digression after another. I got this book out because I try, I can't avoid making everything that I do part of my daily experience. And Constance and I were discussing this morning because if something isn't relevant to my life, ultimately, it's not relevant to me. But the same thing is true for you and for each of us. We are the star, we're the protagonists. Sometimes we're the villain. Whatever it is, we're the main character in our own movie. Now, here I go digressing from my digression. When I was young, okay, I was blessed to have a brother who was 6 years older than I, who was into popular music. And so we're talking about the years, the mid 1950s through as rock and roll was born. Okay, it's in the years when it was moving from rock and roll was developing from doo-wop and jazz, and then country music and blues, and all mostly three of those things were melding together with this backbeat. And I was really lucky to have a brother spinning those records. And because of my limited mobility because of my hip disease, I was able to listen to these songs over and over and over and over again, and until they were so deeply embedded in my memory that I memorized all of the lyrics, and I could play them back in my head, especially when the family went on little mini vacations to visit my mother's relatives 250 miles away, which is in those days was a 5-hour drive. And I'd lay in the back seat of the car and listen to the tires humming on the highway, and through that white noise of car travel, I could replay every note of those songs back into my memory, and I could hear every lick. Okay, and then when I was old enough to go to movies by myself, I totally, absolutely fell in love with everything about the movies. Not only the plot and the entertainment, but the music and the theme music and the way the music played with emotions and how it could make me happy or sentimental or horny or afraid. The richness of life seemed to, I injected it straight into my veins. And when I would walk to school in the mornings, I would, because I hated school so much, I hated it. But I pretended that I was in my own movie, and that I was the star of my own movie, and today's day at school was going to be the plot of the movie, and that I would distinguish myself or not distinguish myself in the same way as the hero of or the main character of a movie would be. And I still do that. Sometimes when I want to take a walk in the morning, I have my telephone that can play a radio station, and I put on classical music, and it's the opening theme of my movie, and it puts me in a state of mind where I am the camera's eye, and I am observing everything that's going on a heightened level. I am my own camera and my own audience. And now we know. There's a point to this. Now we know that consciousness, reality, the state of being, of which we are monads, centers of consciousness, the conditions of reality, or the conditions of, say, a scientific experiment, are altered by the mere fact that the experiment is being observed. Think of that. When we observe ourselves, we are changing the conditions of our being. It's no coincidence, it's no accident that the all-seeing eye of God, the eye of Horus, the eye of Odin, the eye of Mayan God, that the eye, the observation, is so hooked up with the idea of divinity, of the singularity of consciousness. So Constance and I were talking this morning about how it is such a blessing to be able to at least come on and share with a couple hundred people every day our observation of our own existence. For us, it's a wonderful way to alter the conditions of our life. So, and I'm on this trip because I've got a deadline, and I've got to finish a novel, okay, or an updated, an expansion of a novel, and I have to work as the creative eye of the author of a novel, and I got to be doing that all afternoon. I should be doing it right now. But that's exactly what a good clergyman or clergywoman should be doing. We watch the show Grantchester, okay, on Masterpiece Theater. And here's this Episcopal priest. He's a drunk and everything else, and he's a horny guy, and he helps solve murders with his drunken police detective friend. But then at the end of the show, he always puts it together with a sermon at his, you know, his observation of his own existence that week. He wraps up in a nice little sermon at the end. And in a sense, that's the existence that we're living. But anyway, couple things that I did have planned for today. One was lots of us are being forced with tragic events of suicide and attempted suicide. And today's depressing world is not helping things. And I remember that somebody once wrote me. Let's see. I was wondering when you die, where are you supposed to go if you do the Thelema thing? Or do you just stop existing? Or is there another life or something? Also, are there rules? Like if you're a Christian and you commit suicide, you can't get into heaven. If I don't make sense or you don't want to bother, that's cool, but I'm trying to figure out some stuff with little success. Have a great day, etc. I answer him back. The honest answer is I don't know. And neither does anybody else. The book of the law says, "I feast, rejoice, there is no dread hereafter." Does that mean there is no dread hereafter? Or there is no dread hereafter? Or both? Or something altogether different? One thing we do is that we as Thelemites do deal with is the concept of the consciousness of the continuity of existence. The question of whether or not we retain consciousness of the continuity of our existence, or if it is something that needs to be developed over time and incarnations, I don't know. The Egyptians and the Tibetans seem to suggest it is something to shoot for. I don't believe in the classic Christian concept of heaven and hell. I do, however, know that we don't understand the nature of consciousness, and that in altered states of consciousness, such as the death coma, time does not behave the way it does when we're fully alive and not in the death coma. I believe that pleasant or unpleasant experiences can occur to us depending upon the state of mind of the expiring individual. I believe we all have the right to die when and how we will. And that suicide is not, in every case, the wrong exit method. However, I believe if a person commits suicide while his or her mind is unbalanced or tormented or fearful, that increases the chances of unpleasantness during the death coma and would likely interfere with the natural flow of things. In other words, I believe if one is resolved to end one's life, one should be joyful and at peace with the idea that this is absolutely the best moment to begin a new and wonderful adventure. However, if we're doing it because we're bummed out then we're probably just going to make things worse. I hope this has been helpful. Okay, I had to get that out. Before I close, I should be doing this for Sunday school, but we'll do something else tomorrow for Sunday school. I want you to think, I want us all to think, because I'm thinking about my life and my magic, my existence, and my great work as the story that it is. And I want to be more conscious about observing it as such. And you know, starting with my life with the spirits and homemade magic and low magic especially, I talk about magical things in the context of anecdotes or stories to illustrate the magical principles. And in the prologue to Low Magic, I actually come right out and say it. And it's only a page here, so this is what I'll close with. I start off with an epigram from Washington Irving. I love Washington Irving, this Rip Van Winkle, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and things like that. I always loved Washington Irving. He said, "I'm always at a loss at how much to believe of my own stories." Me too. Next to silence. Stories are the most divine form of communication. Stories are alive. Stories are holy. Stories are gods that create universes and create creatures and characters that populate them. Stories bring to life all the triumphs and tragedies imagination and experience can summon to the mind. Stories speak directly to our souls. Stories are magic. As I begin the 7th decade of my life, I find myself more inclined to listen to a story than study a text or reflect on an argument. More inclined to tell a story than to presume to teach a lesson or offer advice. Perhaps it's because as we grow older, we have more stories to tell. And experience and wisdom conspire to add dimension, texture, and perspective to the lengthening register of our experience. For whatever reason, I find myself at this season of my life unable to approach the subject of this book from any other direction than relating my personal experiences. This is not to say that I haven't integrated a great deal of theory and technical information within my non-chronological narratives. Indeed, I believe there is more than enough magical how-to-ness nestled in these pages to keep a motivated magician busy for some time. But it's the story that informs, the story that teaches, the story that reveals the magical how-why-ness, and in some instances, the how-why-not-ness of the magician's life. However, storytelling has certain disadvantages, foremost being the fact that memory is fragile and a subjective thing. Pain, regret, embarrassment, shame, wishful thinking, fantasy, and old-fashioned self-delusion constantly threaten the accuracy of our recollections of the past. Absolute objectivity is impossible. But unlike other mortals who lead less examined lives, the magician is obliged to keep a diary and may refer to specific events recorded in his or her magical journals. I've relied heavily on my scribblings in the preparation of this book, a painfully embarrassing ordeal, I assure you. In the course of telling a magical story, one must consider the sensitivities and the privacy of other individuals, living or dead, who may be part of the action. Over the years, I've been blessed to meet and work with some very wonderful and colorful characters, most of whom would not be recognizable personalities in our magical subculture, but a few of them I dare might say. So I confess here and now that in certain places in this book I've changed the names or made other literary adjustments to allow certain individuals to remain blissfully incognito. As the years pass and more of these dear souls die, I'll probably share if you haven't guessed. But anyway, I digress. I, of course, hope that you'll enjoy this small collection of my memories, but know that I can't possibly satisfy the taste and expectation of every reader. Perhaps this book will not be what you expected. Perhaps you'll be disappointed that I haven't written yet another textbook or more scholarly elucidation upon some great magical system or philosophical doctrine. If so, I hope you overlook my lack of an apology, because I believe with this little book, I'm offering you something that can be far more powerful and enlightening, a gift of stories. I hope you accept them for what they are and find your particular truth within them. For as the Zuni sages tell us, there is no truth, only stories. And I might add, and there's only one story, yours. Try to enjoy it. We'll see you tomorrow for Sunday school. Until then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under